Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone around the world. I am Paul Sisler. This is In the Moment. Becoming Stoic. Becoming Stoic. A lot of people have a lot of different belief systems, and I'm not here to make you change your belief. I'm not here for you to iron in and say, hey, this sounds like a good belief system. I think I'm going to try it out. I'm here because I want you to open your mind. I want you to think about things. I want you to use what you were born with, your critical thinking skills. And in our goal of becoming stoic, we have to understand self. And a lot of us everybody's on a journey. Whether you realize it or not, everybody's on a journey. And in this journey, we live, we learn, we listen, and we try to become better. We try to become better human beings. And with that, I want to dedicate this episode to my wife who passed January of 2022. A lot of things that she had said to me before she had passed away has made this one of my goals, is to bring a line of thinking to people that they can look at and maybe learn something about themselves, learn something about other people, and overall become a better human being. So with that, I'd like to introduce our host of Becoming Stoic, Elizabeth Masters. Hello, Elizabeth.
Hi, Paul. Hi, everybody. It's nice to be here with you, and I'm really excited to dive into the world of Rene Descartes.
All right.
And sort of see how his philosophy measures up against Stoicism.
Yes. Rene Descartes, if you don't know who he is, please Google him, get the information you need to know. And I encourage you to get this book, Rene Descartes, Meditations on First Philosophy. And that's what we're going to be going over today. We're going to start with the first meditation, meditation 1, of the things of which we doubt. Okay. And what I'm going to do is, as we go through this, there are the first meditation. Let's see. I believe there's 12 sections to it. Yes, there's 12 sections to the first meditation. We're probably going to get through. I'm hoping we can get through the first 5 today, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to read or paraphrase line by line, and then we're going to kind of discuss, what it means to us and how we understand it. And if you have questions, the viewer, just pop into the chat, the comments, and let us know if you have something. And we'll either address it at that time, or when we get through it, we can always come back to the comments and just go right down them and try to address them as we can. All right. So here we go. Meditation 1, of the things of which we may doubt. Section 1. Several years have I now elapsed since I first became aware that I had accepted, even from my youth, many false opinions for true, and that consequently what I afterward based on such principles was highly doubtful. Now, when we look at ourselves and we look at our belief systems, take a look at how we develop that belief system, whether it be a religion, whether it be a work ethic, whatever it may be. Look at how, from when you grew up, from your youth, that there might be some falsity in what you have lived. And now, what Rene Descartes is talking about is how some of these principles may actually be doubtful. Maybe they're not true. What do you get from this?
Yeah, I get much of the same thing. It's something that we even see in modern society today. From our upbringing, a lot of times what we believe and what we hold to be true are things that we're taught, from early on. And he uses a really the key word here, for me in this sentence, is opinions. Everybody has them, and this is how a lot of people form their beliefs, and they're based on the opinions surrounding certain things, many things of importance, including principles, as he mentions. And so this is sort of where people get stuck, I think. When they're older, they either see it for what it is and they start to challenge things, based on what they're seeing, or they just really they're just very stuck there. And so, this is where he sort of sets up, doubting, calling things into question, not necessarily because the beliefs are wrong or, untrue, but because sometimes they are, and it's really important to consider them and consider all of the facts to find out, what's true, what's not, what's right, what's wrong.
Exactly. Okay. From that time, I was convinced of the necessity of undertaking once in my life to rid myself of all the opinions I had adopted and of immersing anew the work of building from the foundation. Okay. And basically what he's saying here is everything that he has, it's based on opinion. Gone. I'm starting over from fresh. So this foundation of beliefs that I have, I'm not going to take any of them as truth. I'm starting over. I'm going to look at them and see exactly what is true and what's not. Is that what you take from this?
Yeah, absolutely. That, once you start learning that the things around you, may have just been opinion and may have not been true, it's really important to just sort of purge and just start over, and build from the ground up.
Right. And he finishes it with, I desired to establish a firm and abiding superstructure in the sciences. In other words, all those beliefs that he had, instead of using opinions, what people say, how they believe, how they think, he's going to the science of it, the facts. Here is what is, and I'm going to build it from there.
Correct.
All right. This enterprise appeared to me to be one of great magnitude. I awaited until I had attained an age so mature as to leave me no hope that at any stage of my life more advanced, I should be better able to execute my design. And what he's saying here is, when this thought first entered his mind, he was young and he wanted to go through life and experience as much as he could, to where basically there's nothing left to experience. And now I can take a look at all of these things in my maturity and be able to do this, to throw all these beliefs out now and start anew.
Right. I think the overall premise here is that he wanted to build a really fortified foundation, like one that was really strong, so that it could be indisputable.
Yes. Yeah, no, go on. What?
No. That's just all I wanted to say.
Yes. Because quite frankly, if you're a young person and you're breaking everything down and you're trying to say, this is what I know, versus someone that has lived a lot of these things, and I'm guilty of it. A young person will come to me, I know this, I know that, and it's just like, how can you know what this is if you've never lived like this or this or this? How can you know what poverty is if you've never been impoverished? How can you know what homelessness is if you've never been homeless? How can you know what struggle is if you've never struggled?
Right. You have to really be exposed to life, to learning, and in order to really build the foundation. And I think that's what he's saying here, is that I'm going to take my time and learn everything that I can learn, so that I can build this really solid uh, basis of knowledge.
Yes.
But to do so is to sow doubt in everything that he had already learned.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Since I have opportunely freed my mind from all cares and am happily disturbed by no passions, and since I am in the secure possession of leisure in a peaceable retirement, I will at length apply myself earnestly and freely to the general overthrow of all of my former opinions. And this basically goes on to what we were just saying. He's come to this nice ripe age where in your youth you still have these passions that you want to do this, you want to do that, you want to go skydiving, you want to jump from a bungee cord, you want to see Mount Everest, you want to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa. You have all these adventures that you want to go on, all these things you want to experience, food from different lands, blah blah blah. He's at this place where he no longer has any desires to do anything else now. He's lived his life. He's free of all these passions that drive a lot of people of youth. And now it's like I can take the time and just at my leisure break everything down that I've ever believed in and review it.
Right. He's ready.
Yes. Yes. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Okay. Now we go on to number 2, section 2. I ought not the less carefully to withhold belief from what is not entirely certain and indubitable than from what is manifestly false. It will be sufficient to justify the rejection of the whole if I shall find in each some ground for doubt. Okay. What this is that there are things that he already believes in that basically it's irrefutable, it's indisputable, it already is established. And there is no doubt in some of these beliefs. So since there's already no doubt in this belief, why dismantle it and try to start up again from the bottom? I'm just going to take the things that there is grounds for doubt and dismantle. Is that what you get from this?
Yeah, I get that Rene Descartes as a whole wanted to sow doubt in pretty much everything, regardless of whether it was to be doubted or it ended up not being false. Whatever, truth he was seeking to poke holes in. But he really wanted to say, yes, it's true that, this ended up not being false, but there always exists a possibility that it could be. So it's okay to question things regardless of how it comes out in the end. And really what that amounts to is critical thinking, which we discussed in our previous episode. So he's sort of paving the way to teach people to think critically.
Yes, yes. Nor will it be necessary even to deal with each belief individually, which would be truly an endless labor, which goes back to what we were just saying. Each individual belief, everything, I'm not going to look at them all. It would just take too much time and all that. Which tea is better? Royal Grey, Clover and Red Rose, Spearmint. There's no need to go into each and every belief because some of them are more, fundamentally my own opinion, basically, is how I take it.
Right. I think right here is where he, differentiates between, or he's basically saying you got to pick and choose the ones that are important and the ones that are not so important. Some things don't matter. Some things really do.
Yes. Yes. Which would be, hold on. As the removal from below of the, hold on. As the removal from below of the foundation necessarily involves the downfall of the whole edifice, I will at once approach the criticism of the principles on which all my former beliefs rested. Now, I see this as, instead of removing everything, which if I remove everything, then the whole foundation of anything I have is gone. And why bring down the whole foundation?
Right.
Let's just attack. Once I approach the criticism of the principles of which all my former beliefs rested. So let's take a look at what drove me to these belief systems, and let's go to that. Instead of attacking each one of these individual beliefs, let's look at what drove me to these beliefs.
Right. And look at the criticisms first. That way you can just sort of, get that out of the way. He wanted to address those things first to sort of like cut through the weeds, so to speak.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, on to number 3. All that I have up to this moment accepted as possessed of the highest truth and certainty, I received either from or through the senses. I observed these sometimes misled us, and it is the part of prudence not to place absolute confidence in that which by we have even once been deceived. Okay? Now, I find this to be one of the most important aspects of this, because we all have our senses and we rely on those: taste, sight, smell, hearing, touch. We rely on those. And how can we discount anything that we've touched, felt, seen, hear, tasted? How can we discount that? But yet, there are instances where we could be misled. And with that, we have to, even if we've been deceived once, we have to look at it.
Right. Through our senses, which are very reliable, and Rene Descartes does make a strong argument that the senses are very, very reliable. But even with our senses, sometimes we don't get the whole picture. Sometimes the things that we see, we're seeing a picture through a pinhole. The things that we hear, we're not hearing everything in its entirety. And so it's really easy to have misconceptions about things that we believe to be true based on not only what we've been taught, but what we've learned through our own experiences and our own senses. But, there can even be more to that. And one of humans' flaws is that we rely on the immediate, and sometimes we don't dig deeper, and it can often lead to misunderstanding or believing in things that just aren't correct.
Right.
And I think that this is where in section 3, he's saying that you have to go beyond that. You have to seek further and, understand that the senses, while reliable, you have to rely on other things as well.
Right.
Don't always trust your senses.
Right. The senses aren't always infallible. Okay. Right. I think when I had Shadow Fox on here last week, one of the examples, because this was brought up in the synopsis that I gave, was you have this big square in the town center. One side is red, one side is yellow, one side is green, one side is blue. If you're coming in from the north side of town and you see this big blue square sitting in town, you think there's a big blue square, but the people coming in from the south see a big red square.
Right.
And then they all go to the diner and it's like, did you see that big red square in the center of town? No, I saw a big blue square.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, it was red. No, it was blue. They're both right.
Right.
Because that's
Correct.
what they saw. So where is where is it infallible? I've only seen one side.
Right. And people get stuck in that all too often. And so you have to investigate outside of that. You have to think beyond that. You have to seek out, what's beyond that. And oftentimes people will get themselves into arguments over these things. No, the square was red. No, the square was blue. Well, I saw a red square. The obvious question is, okay, take me and show me. Let me see what you're seeing. But even today, people don't do that. They rely wholly on what their experience was in that moment. And that's just what it is. And they don't seek to go beyond that. So I think he's addressing the importance of going beyond that here.
Right. Basically, he's addressing critical thinking skills.
Right.
He's addressing that through logic, common sense, and deductive reasoning, we can learn more about things that even our senses may deceive us in. Because if you go just by your senses, you can be deceived. Okay. Right. You can be deceived. So instead of going into that I'm right, you're wrong aspect of it, it's like, okay, let's look at this. I came in from the north side of town. What side did you come in? Well, I came in from the south side. Could that square have been different colors on all sides? Let's go check it out. And now you get to see all four colors and how beautiful it is. Right. So yes, exactly. That's critical thinking is so important when you're addressing any philosophy. And this is, again, one of the key points that Rene Descartes brings to the table in philosophy, that the critical thinking is so important. So with that, I'm going to go on to section 4. It may be said, although the senses occasionally mislead us respecting minute objects, and such are so far removed from us as to be beyond the reach of close observation, there are yet many other of their presentations, of the truth of which it is manifestly impossible to doubt. As, for example, that I am in this place, seated by the fire, clothed in a winter dressing gown, that I hold in my hands this piece of paper with other informations of the same nature. But how could I deny that I possess these hands and this body, and withal escape being classed with persons in a state of insanity, whose brains are so disordered and clouded by dark bilious vapors as to cause them to assert that they are monarchs when they are in the greatest poverty, or clothed in gold and purple when destitute of any covering, or that their head is made of clay, their body of glass, or that they are gourds. I should certainly be not less insane than they, were I to regulate my procedure according to examples so extravagant.
There's a lot to unpack there.
Yes. I was only going to read part of it, but it's like, I got to read all of this to bring it all together.
Right.
Eyewitness testimony is often the most unreliable information used in court. Think about that. Absolutely.
Yes.
Right. Absolutely. So with this is what I love, because he's going into the whole mind-body problem is where he's going. Okay. Here I sit in front of a camera on a computer with my coffee, my water, and my vape. How can I argue that I'm not sitting here? How can I argue that I'm dressed in a pink shirt and not a navy blue shirt? How can I address that I am not wearing a tie when I am? These are things that I can see right now. Okay. And
Mhm.
how, you can see what I see. Is there any argument here?
Right. This is where he sort of introduces the notion that even though it's prudent not to place absolute confidence in that by which we have even once been deceived, which is by our senses, that our senses on the whole are extremely reliable. And so we have to be acutely aware of what situations our senses are reliable and what situations they may not be reliable. And that's really where critical thinking comes into play. That's
Yeah.
what I get from the combination of the passages 3 and 4.
Right. Now, what I want to expound on, that person that thinks they're a monarch
Mm-hmm.
with a crown of gold and clothed in purple, maybe they actually believe that. Maybe they actually see that. How are
Correct.
we not, able to determine whether what they see is true or not? Because what they see might be actually what they see. They might think they're a king. They might think that they are a monarch. They might think their head is made of clay. Granted, there are people that have thought things like that and have done things to themselves because they think that's what's going on. There's bugs crawling all over my skin. And there's people that have scratched themselves so badly and tried to dig the bugs out because they believe there are bugs under their skin. So where do we address the mind and what we see, how it could deceive us? Because if I'm looking at somebody digging their skin out saying that there's bugs underneath and I'm not seeing any bugs, I will think that that person has gone mad. But have they? Well, you're still on mute.
Sorry. I was muting because there was a little bit of background noise and I just wanted to make sure it didn't carry over while you're speaking. So this just goes back, I think, to his point of being able to determine between what's concrete and what's not concrete and how to recognize that. And he gives really real tangible example of that. So, I am here physically in the now, sitting by this fire. These are my hands. But I may be sitting amongst people who believe that they're kings. So, dressed in, what they're dressed in, yet it's not actually what they're dressed in. And so this is where, again, we have to use that critical thinking and be able to determine, what is concretely true and what is a belief system based on possible upbringing or teaching or opinions, what they were exposed to. And I think he gives really two great examples of that intertwined into one scenario.
Yes. And then, of course, he brings on the next one here in part 5. Though this be true, I must nevertheless here consider that I am a man, and that consequently I am in the habit of sleeping, and representing to myself in dreams those same things, or even sometimes others less probable, which the insane think are presented to them in their waking moments. So this is where he starts to begin the process of, they think that they're in the waking moment. I think I'm in the waking moment. How do I know I'm not in the dream and they're in the waking moment, or they're in the dream and I'm in the waking moment? Are we all in the dream? Are we all in the waking moment? Could one of us be dreaming and the other not? What is going on here?
Yeah, this is where he really sort of develops the dream argument and, tries to draw people. This is where he sets up, questioning what's reality, what's not, and begins to set people up to draw him away from the Aristotle sort of thinking.
Yes.
So this is where it starts to get interesting.
Yes. Excuse me. Ah. How often have I dreamt that I was in these familiar circumstances, that I was dressed and occupied this place by the fire when I was lying undressed in bed? At the present moment, however, I certainly look upon this paper with eyes wide awake. The head which I now move is not asleep. I extend this hand consciously and with the express purpose, and I perceive it. The occurrences in sleep are not so distinct as all of this. At other times, I have been deceived in sleep by similar illusions, and attentively considering those cases, I perceive so clearly that there exist no certain marks by which the state of waking can ever be distinguished from sleep, that I feel greatly astonished, and in amazement, I almost persuade myself that I am now dreaming.
I think he's talking about vivid dreams, to be honest. I think he uses that as a case to sort of, set up the dream argument.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I mean, I have had dreams that are so realistic that I wake from them thinking that they were real for a moment, but then realize I was dreaming. So, you know, this is where we go into I think, therefore I am. But we have
Exactly.
yes, we have Bryce here. Your senses might be reliable, but recall is often unreliable, altered by bias and other influences, internal and external. Your truth about anything you've experienced can shift, especially over time.
That's
Yes,
very, very
yeah,
true.
yes. And there might even be instances where you had a dream that was so vivid that maybe later in life that dream might have been become a reality, that you might actually believe you lived what you did in that dream, and that's because you can,
Right.
yeah, that you can no longer tell the difference between that dream and reality.
Right. And sometimes I think with dreams, it could create situations of deja vu. Maybe you've had a dream that was so vivid, and then you find yourself in a similar situation. And Bryce is absolutely right. As time goes on, memory fades, things can sort of meld together, and so our senses really can't be relied on in those situations, because there is so much room for other factors to come in and sort of taint what it is we've experienced with our senses.
Yes, and I can tell you as a 54-year-old man that in my youth I have memories of things that I've done, and there's certain things that I can only remember certain parts of it. I can't remember like every conversation that we had or everything that we did in between one moment to the next. And sometimes I don't know if my mind creates things to fill in those gaps, or if it's trying so hard to recall a memory that it actually pulls up a memory. And it's like, wow, because even I, now at this age, start to question some of the memories as memories.
Yeah, absolutely. our recall does become skewed, and sometimes we can fully remember something. Sometimes, we'll remember a little bit, and then we'll remember a little bit more later on down the line until it's just completely.
Oh, you muted yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Until you completely and totally just don't have a clear picture. So it's really, really important to question the senses. I wholeheartedly agree with Descartes here.
Yes, yes. And just so you know, when you get older, there's times that I will get up and walk into the kitchen and I have to ask myself, what am I doing in the kitchen? I know I came out here for something. What was it?
Right.
So, yes.
I think it happens more when you have kids.
Yes, yes.
You don't have to be older. You can just be a parent, pretty
All
much.
right. We're going actually a lot faster through this than what I thought. So here we go. We're going on number 6. Let us suppose then that we are dreaming, and that all these particulars, namely the opening of the eyes, the motion of the head, the forth putting of the hands, are merely illusions. And even that we really possess neither an entire body nor hands such as we see. Now, there is a thought. Just suppose that we aren't a body, that we are just merely in a dream. So, thoughts on that, Elizabeth?
The thing is that in dreams, I mean, everything is real and not real. It's real in the sense that in the moment as we're experiencing it, it's real to us.
Mm-hmm.
But we're in a dream state. And so it's not actually a state of reality, of real experience. And so he does say that, in the next line, and you can go ahead and read the next line, that it has to be admitted that the objects that appear to us are basically representative of reality, but they're useless in dreams. And oftentimes in a dream state, they are useless. Anything around us, all of our senses are useless. And we have no control over them. We're in the total control of our subconscious. And I don't know about you, but if you've ever been in a dream state where you're aware that you're in a dream state.
Oh, yes, yes.
And you try to control,
Yes.
what happens or the outcome of the dream, or even if you wake up and go back and try to go back into the same dream, if it's a really good one, we're basically, all of our senses are rendered useless, so.
Yeah. Now, see, I can go and I can control my dreams to a certain extent.
Right.
And this will be for another discussion another day, because things that our subconscious are trying to tell us, we can't change those outcomes no matter how hard we try, no matter how aware we are in our dream. But yet there's things in our dreams that we can control and manipulate once we learn how to do so. But let's go to what you just were saying. Nevertheless, it must be admitted, at least, that the objects which appear to us in sleep are, as it were, painted representations which could not have been formed unless in the likeness of realities, and therefore that those general objects, at all events, namely eyes, a head, hands, and an entire body, are not simply imaginary, but really existent.
Correct.
Okay. For in truth, painters themselves, even when they study to represent sirens and satyrs by forms the most fantastic and extraordinary, cannot bestow upon them natures absolutely new, but can only make a certain medley of the members of different animals, or if they chance to imagine something so novel that nothing at all similar has ever been seen before, and such as is therefore purely fictitious and absolutely false, it is at least certain that the colors of which this is composed are real.
Absolutely. I love how he compares, the dream state to like the visions of artists.
Yes.
I think it's a really accurate parallel that he draws there. And he makes the distinction that that a lot of what we see and experience in dreams are absolutely false. Like there's no truth to them. They can't be argued as realistic. But some elements of the dream state are realistic, such as the colors, which for anybody who has vivid dreams, no, some people don't have vivid dreams. Some people have extraordinarily vivid dreams. I have extraordinarily vivid dreams. And so I can hear, taste, feel, smell, cry, and everything is just in living color, and so I think he makes an important point here, that even though dreams, a lot of what's within our dreams are false, there's also very real components that we experience in the dreams. That's what I took away from that.
Right. Let's see. We got something from Bryce again. Similarly, postmodernists believe the only objective truth are things you've experienced. Your personal assessment of reality and your lived experience is the only truth or value.
Right.
Now, here's one of the things that I take from this section, is because this is also where he tries to hold on to the God idea. Because in a lot of religious beliefs, you can't imagine anything new that's not already been created, because God is the creator of all things. So you can't create anything new or different. You can only use what's already been created by God. Okay. And he makes sure that he says, but can only make a certain medley of the members of different animals. Okay.
Yeah.
Take Alien. Have you seen the movie Alien?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the creature walks upright. It has a tail. Animals have tails. It has this head that is different than anything that you've ever seen, but we've seen that shape. It has a mouth within a mouth within a mouth that can, bring out. Its blood is acid, but acid exists. So, did somebody create something that doesn't exist, and it's a medley of other things, like Rene Descartes would, explain here? So, is this a creation from other things, or is this something that the mind itself could actually create on its own? And this is where the attachment to God comes in, because if we can only do a medley, how can we get so precise in something that is a creation that resembles nothing that we've ever seen?
Right.
Which would mean, if Descartes is right, then there's aliens out there that God has created that we haven't seen yet. I used to think that was absolute BS, but now I see there is something to it.
Right.
Yes. So, purely fictitious and absolutely false, it is at least certain that the colors of which this is composed are real.
Right.
Have we seen all colors?
I don't know.
Okay.
Because it colors to me in a prism seems kind of like mathematics. They seem like there's sort of an infinite component to it.
Yes. Have you ever gone to a paint store?
Yes.
All right.
Many
And
times.
they have, R is this much, yellow is this much, green is this much.
Mm-hmm.
With the extent of it, there would be a maximum color combination that you can make with paint. Okay.
Right.
But that doesn't address possibly what the entire spectrum of color is.
Correct. I agree.
Because remember when we see like red, it's because that's the color not being absorbed by whatever it is that we're looking at. It absorbs everything else.
Right.
So in reality, we would have to have every possible known material that is absolutely ever possibly created in the universe of every elemental composition to exist to potentially see all colors, because there would be something that doesn't absorb something that we haven't seen before. So
Right.
I don't think it's possible to create all colors.
I don't either.
So I don't know where I was going with this. I lost my train of thought. I had a point. I don't know where it went. Bryce now says, now I see some validity in the postmodernist argument.
Right. And that's where I think Rene Descartes wanted to take people, and he wanted to get them to, doubt and question a lot of, what appears to be real, what is seemingly real. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about him. Still, don't think he's a Stoic. And we'll get into that more later.
Yes.
But he very methodically sets people up to really start questioning and seeking truth beyond,
yes,
what they see, what they hear, what they know, what they've been taught.
Exactly. And on the same principle, although these general objects, a body, eyes, a head, hands, and the like, be imaginary, we are nevertheless absolutely necessitated to admit the reality at least of some other objects still more simple and universal than these, of which, just as of a certain real colors, all those images of things, whether true and real or false and fantastic, that are found in our consciousness are formed.
I'm just reading that again.
I'll read it again for everybody also. And on the same principle, although these general objects, body, eyes, hands, feet, so on and so forth, and the like, be imaginary, we are nevertheless absolutely necessitated to admit the reality at least of some other objects still more simple and universal than these, of which just as of certain real colors, all those images of things, whether true and real or false and fantastic, that are found in our consciousness are formed.
So here he's just saying that regardless of whether, like hypothetically, if all of these things on that same principle are, imaginary, one has to admit that it's based on reality, and all of these things are formed. And so I think, again, this ties back into, the previous passages where he is basically stating that we have to look and seek out what is concrete and what is not concrete. And that's where we have to make the delineation and go beyond.
Yes. This is basically him saying it doesn't matter if you think we're dreaming or if we're awake. It really doesn't matter.
No.
For some odd reason, we all still imagine a head, eyes, nose, mouth, ears for a human being, hands,
Right.
feet, body. Regardless of what we think, we still create this. So
Right.
there has to be a reality to it.
Right. Correct.
The colors, there has to be a reality to it, because if we're all just dreaming and we're communicating with everybody in our dreams, we still create these things. Right. And my only argument back is, what if you are the actual only person dreaming, that nobody else in the world actually exists, that you're only creating people to look like you because this is how you imagine yourself, and none of it is real. So you are just a brain in a machine that is imagining all of these things. Think about it.
That's what Rene Descartes is,
Yep. To this class of objects seem to belong corporeal nature in general and its extension. The figure of extended things, their quantity or magnitude, and their number, as also the place in, and the time during which they exist, and other things of the same sort. Now, this is kind of confusing. I'm going to read this again. To this class of objects seem to belong corporeal nature in general and its extension. To this class of objects seem to belong corporeal nature in general and its extension. The figure of extended things, their quantity or magnitude, and their number, as also the place in, and the time during which they exist, and other things of the same sort. What do you get from this?
Well, I think that it's important for people to understand what it is Rene Descartes is saying here, in order to really sort of break this down appropriately. So, first of all, corporeal nature is the nature of the physical body. For anybody who doesn't, understand, those words, it's just the nature of the physical body. It's not spiritual. Right. So it's of an actual material nature, something tangible that you can touch, that see, feel, that exist. It's not something imagined or again, spiritual is a good word. And so what I think that he's saying here is that to this class of objects seem to belong. So the objects in a dream state that we're seeing that may be imaginary because we're in a dream state, like the head, like the hands, those are based on reality, and that those are things that actually belong in, that exist in a physical form. And so we have to recognize that, in our dreams is an extension of reality. So that's what I take from this.
Okay. I actually go the other route. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think he's going with a spiritual nature, because I think he's trying to differentiate. My thought process is the difference between the soul and the body.
Right.
I think he's trying to separate it, that it's a symbiotic relationship, that to this class of objects seem to belong corporeal nature in general and its extension, the figure of extended things, their quantity or magnitude, and their number, as also the place in and the time during which they exist, and other things of the same sort. I think he's trying to bring in that no matter what we are, okay, in the spiritual aspect, the body that we're in is real.
Right.
And to whatever existence you bring that to, this is what we all see, feel, and understand. Because this is where the separation of mind and body come into play. And I think that's what he's trying to transition into, is the separation of mind and body here. Though I don't think he does it well enough.
I think that this passage is really left, open for interpretation, because I draw it directly to the previous passage where he's talking about how, some of these things, even though we're seeing them in the imaginary, the head, the body, the eyes, the hand, and he ends with, admit the reality, at least some other objects still more simple and universal than these, of which just as a certain real colors, all of those things, whether true and real or false and fantastic, that are found in our consciousness are formed. And so to this class of objects, they seem to belong to corporeal nature, which are things that are in physical existence. So I think he's trying to solidify his argument that all things that are in the dream state, that are tangible, are based in some form of reality. And I think that's the conclusion he's trying to make certain here by tying those together. But the passage by itself isn't really clear about what he's talking about or where he's going with it. So it's possible that he may make a stronger connection in the next passage. We'll just have to read it to find out.
Yes. And we're coming up on that hour. So I'll ask you, do you want to go into 8 or do you want to save that for next week?
I think we should save it for next week. I think we should think on this. I took some notes, remember, what it is that we've talked about here, and see where we go next week.
Yes, definitely. Rene Descartes definitely addresses the whole mind-body problem.
I think he's doing that altogether.
Yes. And if you're not familiar with the mind-body problem, Google it and kind of find some others that have addressed the mind-body problem, because the mind-body problem is huge. Okay. Rene Descartes, as one of the postmodernists, he really tried to sanctify that the mind and the body are two separate things. And when you go back to a lot of others, the materialists, it's called the dualist versus the materialist, where the dualist believes that the mind and body are two separate things, and when the body dies, the mind goes on. And the materialist believes that the mind and body are one and the same, that when the mind dies, or when the body dies, the mind also dies. That's the end of it. And of course, one of the books that I'm working on, called Impetuism, actually talks about the world of laws of thermodynamics, where energy can't be created nor destroyed. It only changes form, which answers the mind-body problem. That's for a whole nother day.
Since we're talking about this, and yes, I think I have a really interesting dream story to share during our next podcast that really brings this very thing into question. Does the mind go on? is what we experience in our dream reals and real? Is it our subconscious? And I would love to share that at the beginning of next week's show, if you're fine with that, because
yes,
sort of ties into what we're talking about right now. And it's a really powerful story, but it will really make one think.
yes.
So I would love to talk about that next time. I think it's a great segue out of these passages into the next passages.
Yes, I agree. I love it. All right, Elizabeth, thank you. This has been an awesome episode. I loved it. And Bryce, thank you for your interjections and thoughts. I appreciate that greatly.
I do too, so much. Bryce always has really great input that bring a lot of value to the discussion. I'm really happy that you were here with us, and for everybody else who may be watching, thank you for being here with us, and I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to our next discussion.
Yes. Okay, now for all of those that are interested on Tuesday Takes, Luke and I will be discussing how to make the most of your sex scenes in writing. So you'll want to join us with that. Wednesday on The Flow, Shadow Fox and I have a special guest, Plametti, and we're going to be talking about the hero's journey. So you'll want to join us on there for that. And then Saturday on Comedy and Controversy, we are going to be discussing critical race theory, and we have our special guest Sarah Donahue on there to jump into the discussion. So got a lot of things going on, a lot of interesting topics. Next week's going to be an exciting week. I am so excited.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to your other episodes, and I'm looking forward to our next discussion. And I hope everybody who's here will tune in again.
Yes, definitely. So in the meantime, everyone, remember, be kind, be happy, and may good things go your way. Thank you.
Take care, everybody.